There are so many aspects of Assassin's Creed 3 that I could talk about. It was the first Assassin's Creed game that I ever played, in a time of my life when I was just beginning to expand my horizons as far as AAA gaming went. It was set in my favorite time period in history, the American War for Independence. It followed a main character in Connor Kenway that was uniquely relatable to me and my experiences, while also just being a walking armory and epitome of a wartime assassin. But today, I want to talk about one aspect of this game that probably stuck with me the most, and has become a metric for what games become core nostalgic memories for me forevermore. And that aspect is immersion. What I mean by immersion is, frankly, almost the intangibles of game design. Sure, if you put a gun to my Xbox and a gun to my PC and I had to choose, I'd probably say something like Tetris was the greatest game ever made. Technically, its game mechanics are timeless, easy to understand, and difficult to master. But it doesn't excite my imagination and transport me to a new world the way that other games like Assassin's Creed 3 do. For a game to be immersive by my standards, it has to be more than just a good game gameplay-wise. It has to add little things that by themselves would usually end up on the cutting room floor in game development today, but together are stronger than the sum of their individual parts. For example, if I drop midway into the campaign for Assassin's Creed 3, this is the world available to me. I have the city of Boston and New York, circa the 1770s, and a vast frontier meant to represent most of the 13 colonies' rural areas. If I go into the city, I can hear town criers speak about the latest news.
The sloop Trident and merchantmen Romney and Perseus were lost with all hands.
Gatherings of agitators discussing the latest intolerable acts of parliament. See what I did there? Or just merchants hawking their wares. Civilians remark when I try to clamber up a church, speculating that I'm going to hurt myself or that I might be drunk.
Surely he cannot be sane.
Soldiers order me to get off the rooftops if they spot me. Or I can visit a tavern and play a rousing game of checkers, Fanarona, or Nine Men's Morris. And no discussion about Assassin's Creed 3's immersion would be complete without talking about the homestead. The homestead is an element of this game that makes me really feel like I'm in the time period being portrayed. I can rescue and assist fellow colonists I find in my lands, and ask them to stay as a part of my growing community. Each new homesteader is handcrafted by the developers and has a plethora of side missions to get to know them better. This isn't just story-wise, this actually impacts the gameplay. Do I want to make some extra cash on the side so I can afford better pistols and swords? Well then let's help out that one guy who makes barrels and furniture so I can sell his wares in trade caravans and shipping vessels for a greater profit. Do I need a second holster for my pistol so I can dual-wield double-barreled flintlock pistols against my enemies? Well, let's help out the single mom seamstress who lives in my land with her daughter by helping her protect her from her abusive husband. But hey, it's the American Revolution in the 18th century. What could you imagine a hero be getting up to in these times? If you said getting your John Paul Jones on for privateering adventures on the high seas, then do we have the side missions for you? Obviously, the mechanics for ship combat would get much better in the next game, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, but this first stab at the concept still holds up surprisingly well. There are lots of pirate games out there, but how many video games can you fight the British for God and liberty on the American colonial East Coast? And heck, maybe you're more of the treasure hunting variety. Why not follow the clues of a crazy old sailor down by your dock and hunt down the treasure of Captain Kidd? On your quest to find his treasure, you'll come across such exciting locales as abandoned Caribbean manors once belonging to madmen, old Mesoamerican temples, and British sea forts. And after all, why not? If you were an 18th century half-British, half-Native American assassin who ran his own homestead on the American colonial frontier with a ship and crew at your beck and call, why wouldn't you have a little fun with it? Why not explore the abandoned Freemason tunnels beneath New York and Boston, solving puzzles and opening up fast travel points throughout the cities? Why not clear out entire British forts in the American frontier while leaping from tree to tree like a bald eagle-loving Tarzan? Why not talk with George Washington at Valley Forge and help him recover lost shipments from the traitor Benjamin Church? Why not hunt down Charles Lee after he inexplicably ordered his men to retreat when they were on the verge of victory at the Battle of Monmouth Courthouse?
Connor? Charles Lee has betrayed you. He forced retreat in the midst of battle, hoping the loss would take the lives of your men and see you relieved of your command. What? I'm sure he will come and spin a tale saying that he was outnumbered or I was somehow to blame. All lies. I will say it one last time. That man is your enemy, and he will not stop until you are dead or dishonored.
Connor's tale rings true. Lee was acting most odd upon the battlefield.
I will investigate these allegations at once.
The time for that is long past.
This must be done properly, else we're no better than those we oppose. Never mind the political ramifications of such an act.
Should you choose to spare Lee's life, then I will take it myself. Enjoy your victory, Commander. It will be the last I deliver you.
Yes, that actually happened in history. Charles Lee ordering a retreat, not a Mohawk assassin hunting him down. Or so the history books say. I think maybe part of the reason this entry into the Assassin's Creed series didn't resonate so well with audiences when it first released is because this period in history just isn't as inherently fascinating to most people as Renaissance Italy or the golden age of piracy in the Caribbean. But for someone like me who adores this time in history, I couldn't get enough of simply forgetting I was in a video game and just being immersed in late 1700s colonial America. And that's completely setting aside Connor's story, which I'll probably talk about in another video in the future. Now, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag would do an equally good job in the task of immersion a year later. But aside from that and some of the earlier titles, I've yet to truly feel the kind of immersion that Assassin's Creed 3 brought me. Maybe that's nostalgia talking, I don't know. You know what? No, maybe it's not. Maybe it's a video game world where I could stop what I'm doing anytime and play a game of Nine Men's Morris at the local tavern or a game of bocce ball with George frickin' Washington in the city of New York. Future titles would remove things like this, things like period-accurate board games, mini-games with historical figures, whole new gameplay mechanics just for side missions, and a working side economy system for better gear. And you could argue that all of these things were mere set dressing anyway that didn't add a lot to the core experience. But I contend that it's precisely the little things like this that made the earlier games in the series so special. You know what I can't do in just any game? Return pages of Poor Richard's Almanac to Benjamin Franklin. Have Samuel Adams teach me how to use the printing press and propaganda to get the authorities off my scent. Help my fellow colonists build a church in my homestead. Or search for Bigfoot and find out that it's just a very hairy man. Yes, that's actually in the game. I guess what I'm saying is, video games can seem so cookie cutter these days. Manufactured, assembly line, soulless. And I'm aware that's probably an overgeneralization. There are still some AAA games that fill me with a sense of awe and wonder. Some recent examples, maybe like Assassin's Creed Mirage, or games like Metro Exodus, and I'm sure many others, as well as the indie scene, which has really blown up and showing what game developers are capable of when given the time to really flesh out the game mechanics and their passion. But on a more subconscious level, I think I just miss the days when a game would add little things that at the end of the day don't really add anything to a gaming company's bottom line, but mean the world to players like me. I very much doubt that more people bought Assassin's Creed 3 solely because it allowed the player to play Nine Men's Morris. But to me, that's just one more thing that let me forget I was in a video game and make me feel like I just traveled back in time to my favorite period in history. And that's what I was talking about. That is the intangibles that can't be mass-produced. We'll likely never get a game like Assassin's Creed 3 ever again, or at least not anytime soon. I don't want to be too much of a doomer. Companies are just too risk-averse these days to make a AAA game set in a time period that is incredibly commercially viable. And with the rising cost of game development and the crunch in corporate American game development culture, I feel like the devs wouldn't be given the time to put that much passion into video games today anyway. But maybe, just maybe, the indie developers of today and the future can learn from games like Assassin's Creed 3 and the little things that make up my personal favorite aspect of gaming and an underrated one, I feel. Immersion.